And it's a very good afternoon to the Gelding. And Gelding, we're recording on a Friday afternoon again. What's going on there?
Um, Good afternoon, Professor and listeners. Yes, Friday afternoon, Toby, because I have a family commitment tomorrow, Professor. Um, Instead of going to the races at Caulfield, which is under 2 k's from my front door, with three Group One racing, and where I'm a member of the racing club, family commitments are forcing me to go to Yarra Glen races tomorrow.
Well, that's a fair step away, Gelding. I hope you're not driving there.
Well, no. Hopefully, I'm on a bus for a family Buxton for a wedding coming up a month away, and congratulations to Nick, and we wish him the best and all that. And he's a mad racing follower, but we're keen to go to the races. He's got a race meeting at Caulfield with three Group Ones, and he picks for us to pay for a bus to go to Yarra Glen.
Well, all I can say, Gelding, is I hope the bus is air conditioned because it's going to be very, very warm tomorrow.
It will be very hot out there, Professor, and I'll make sure I've got the hat and the shorts on. And you mentioned previously off air that I may be catching up with someone else from the Sportsfan radio family out there, Professor.
Well, from the Sportsfan radio family, Gelding, and also a viewer of the program, David from Mordialloc. He's also heading out to Yarra Glen.
Well, you have a brown paper bag for me, will he?
Well, you can ask him. Hopefully he will.
Will I keep your brown paper bag as well?
Oh, Gelding, as I said, we should charge for these tips.
Spot on, Professor. And as I said, I got some feedback from the tips from Brett during the week on your Professor Parlay bet, and how he found it a bit hard to actually get on the esports thing. But we may comment on that a bit later on, how you saved him some money, Professor.
Yes, did save him some money for last week, Gelding. All right, Gelding, well, races are at Caulfield, as you said. It's a 10-race card. The main race, of course, is the Blue Diamond Stakes, over $2 million in prize money there, Gelding. So it's a big race. And group racing returns to Caulfield. 3 Group 1s, as you've said, 2 Group 2s and 2 Group 3s. So a terrific day's racing, Gelding. Probably one of the better days of racing in Melbourne for the year.
Oh, yes, definitely the Melbourne Racing Club's biggest day, Professor. So, yeah, unfortunately, be missing it, be watching on the big TV out at Yarra Glen. Let's hope they've got a big screen out there for me.
Yes, Gelding. Currently the track is rated a good 4 now. It's going to be very hot for the rest of today and also tomorrow. So I would imagine that track will be upgraded to maybe a good 3 during the day.
I'm with you, Professor. I'm sure, again, one of my worries about Caulfield races is that with a hot day predicted, they'll pour plenty of water onto it, which may lead to a bit of bias running. So, again, our views are to the listeners to watch the first couple of races, see where the pattern of racing does develop, and then back your selections around that. And look, I think later in the day it'll be a good 3, Professor, which does worry me a little bit with the 2-year-old race, the Blue Diamond being at 4:15. The third last race, Professor. So, yeah, look, a little bit worried about it. But anyway, we've got to have a tip. So let's have a go at them.
All right, Gelding, one thing before we get to the tips, one of my bugbears, track management.
Yeah.
Track management. Now, you did say that this is the premier racing day for the Melbourne Racing Club, didn't you?
Yeah, I did say premier racing day in the autumn.
And on a autumn premier racing day, where would you expect the rail to be on the track?
Would you expect it to be in the true position, Professor, and they have the full track available to ride on?
Yes, you would, Gelding. But no, the track isn't the rail isn't in the true position tomorrow. It's 4 metres out.
Oh, okay. Better going out there, is there?
Well, a fortnight ago, it was in the true position. So I can understand why it's not in the true position today. But I'm talking about track management. If you were managing the track, you'd make sure for your premier days the rail would be in the true position, wouldn't you?
One would think that you work back from your major days onwards, but obviously, well, yeah. What else can we say about the MRC?
Well, I was going to ask you this question, Gelding. Does common sense ever enter the committee room?
Let's revert back to the old name, the Victorian Amateur Turf Club.
All right, Gelding. Well, listen, because you'll be at Yarra Glen, you're also going to miss out on Rob Gronkowski, who's going to be at CAULFIELD tomorrow. And, of course, that's a name that is closely aligned with horse racing, isn't it?
Oh, the Gronk. Yep. Certainly is aligned with horse racing, Professor. Why would you bring a previous tight end sporting star from the NFL out for a Melbourne race day, Professor? Maybe you can fill us in. Have you done some study on it?
No, I think it's a waste of time. But anyway, I sound a bit like Sportsfan Stan there, don't I?
Oh, yeah, you're developing.
All right, Gelding, what are your two best bets for tomorrow's racing at CAULFIELD?
Professor, going in race 7 and race 8, the two Group 1s. As you know, I like the good horses in the Group 1 race. No surprise, one of my favourite horses is Mr. Brightside. I thought we were a bit stiff the other day when he just got pipped on the line. Looked the winner all over the place, bar just pipped on the line by Jamie Carr or Jamie Mallon on another Will. But look, at $2, Professor, I like a horse that has won over $16 million in prize money. 10 starts at Caulfield for 5 wins and 4 seconds. Just an out-and-out champion racehorse. So I'll be going race 7, number 1, Mr. Brightside. And then, Professor, I like the Blue Diamond, and I like the history of the race is that horses that normally win the preludes normally run very well in it. So, look, I like Field of Play, trained by Trent Busserton and Natalie Young, to be ridden by our leading jockey at the moment in Blake Shin, who's sitting out on top of the races. The owners have won the prelude over 1,100 quite easily 2 weeks ago, and the owners then decided to pay $55,000 late entrance fee to get it into this $2 million race, Professor. So, look, I like Field of Play. A lot of good chances in this race, but look, a horse that has had 2 starts for 2 wins has beaten a lot in this field. Tomorrow steps up to 1,200. Doesn't look as if that's any queries. You can get $5 for a Professor and $2.10 a place. So I just think that's a good each way value bet going into tomorrow's races. So my two are race 7, number 1, Mr. Brightside, into race 8, number 1, Field of Play. And you like, Professor?
Yes, Gelding. I'm going a little bit earlier than you. Race 4, the Zetative Stakes, a Group 3 for 3-year-olds over 1,200 metres. I like in this one, horse number 1, Lofty Arch, coming out of barrier 9. It's had 3 starts for the very impressive 2 wins. So 67% win rate, 67% place rate. Gelding, it's a Schnitzel colt, and we know that everybody wants a...
Everyone wants a Schnitzel.
That's right. Why didn't we get a Schnitzel, Gelding?
Well, we've got half a Schnitzel, Professor. We've got a Seamus Award who is by Schnitzel. So we've got the family connection to the Schnitzel.
We've got the family connection. I love the way you explain that,
Gelding. Schnitzel, eh? The half Schnitzel.
We've got the half Schnitzel. I like that. All right. What else I like about Lofty Arch, Gelding? It's won at the track and it's won over the distance. It's coming back after a 4-month spell. It beat Lovely Cut at Caulfield over this distance. That horse has since run in the Group 3 Vanity and the Group 1 1,000 Guineas. So I think that franks the form. I think it's got these horses covered, Gelding. Craig Williams in the saddle, so hopefully we don't get willowed. And Alex Ray from Cranbourne and Pakenham. He's in career form at the moment, 14% over his career, but over the last 50, 16%. So doing very well. And you can get $3.80 and $1.60, Gelding. So I like those odds.
Nice. I like it, Professor.
My second selection, Gelding's in race 6, the Mannerism Stakes. It's a Group 3 race for 4-year-old mares and above. It's over 1,400 metres. In this one, I like horse number 4, Samana, coming out of barrier 2. It's had 24 starts for 7 wins and 9 placings, so 29% win rate, 67% place rate. Coming off a last start, 5th at CAULFIELD, Gelding, 2 weeks ago in the Group 1 CF4 Stakes. It was unlucky. It ran into another Will and Mr. Brightside.
Yep.
But coming 5th in that company, Gelding, I think says something about the form line here. In this class, though, Gelding, it's back in class, and I think it's also got these horses covered. Thomas Stockdale's in career form at the moment, 10% over his career, but 16 over the last 50. But Kieran Maher, Gelding, he's run into a bit of a hole. What do you reckon his win rate is over his last 50 races?
Well, Professor, thank Christ you advised me prior to the show in our talk back before. But I've got to admit, I was very surprised when you told me. I would have said, look, in bit of a, they haven't quite been up to scratch as late, but I would have thought he would still be batting around about the 10%. But surprisingly, no, Professor. Maybe you can...
Down to 2%, Gelding.
2% over the last 50 runners?
Over the last 50 runners. So,
wow.
When you've got a career rate of 16%, you've certainly tumbled down a bit, haven't you?
Certainly have, Professor.
Maybe he's picking the wrong races, Gelding.
What is that? One winner out of the 50 races?
Well, your maths is better than mine in racing, Gelding.
Yeah. So anyway, let's hope that changes
one winner
tomorrow.
Out of 50. That's not many.
No, it's not many. Let's hope that changes tomorrow, Professor.
We do, Gelding, we do. $3.60 and $1.50 you can get, Gelding. So my 2 for tomorrow's racing's race 4, horse 1, Lofty Arch, race 6, horse 4, Samana. Now let's turn to the vexed question of the Professor's Parlay, Gelding. Switzerland. We were talking off air before we started the program. Switzerland was running 3rd everywhere except on the line when it finished 4th.
Yes, after the photo finish was called for. I still thought we got 3rd, Professor, but anyway, I've built a bridge over that one. So, but I did have contact during the week with one of our listeners in Brett, and Hogs was able to tell me he was unable to get on last week. So maybe you've done him a favour by picking the esports, Professor, because he couldn't get that on with his provider. So 1 week where unfortunately Switzerland finished 4th for us and we're a bit disappointing. But how'd the other leagues go?
Well, Gelding, Liverpool beat Wolverhampton as predicted in the Premier League, and in esports the Professor's batting 1 from 1. Fanatics beat Team Heretics 2-0. But
2-0.
Yes, but I was right. Oscar Jimenez, the star player for Fanatics, didn't get a pentakill.
Didn't get a pentakill.
No, didn't get a pentakill. So,
what is a pentakill, Professor, again?
That's where you kill all 5 players on the opposition.
Literally or just...
No, figuratively, Gelding.
Okay.
Figuratively speaking, of course.
Beautiful.
Anyway, we've taken Brett's complaints into... Well, it wasn't really a complaint, but his advice into account, and we're steering clear of esports in this week's Professor's Parlay.
Are we retiring esports from the Professor's Parlay?
Oh, no, we're never retiring anything. We're never ruling anything out. Listen, this is like politicians. We're never ruling anything out.
Okay. Okay.
Listen, Gelding, if we can win picking it, I'm picking it.
Okay. That's fair enough, Professor.
All right. So, Gelding, that puts us 3 from 8, 37.5%. So it's still a good strike rate.
Yes. Still very, very good, Professor.
All right. So this week we're going to Rose Hill for the bet of the day. Race 6, horse 3, Woderton. And perhaps, Gelding, you would advise the viewers as to why we've selected that horse.
Well, Professor, for the Professor's Parlay, for the horse league for it, which we kind of think is normally the hardest league, we look Australia-wide for what we think is more or less a certainty type of bet tomorrow. And look, I like race 6, number 3, Wodaton. You can get round about the $2.10, Professor. It's a cool mono 2-year-old, which is favourite for the Golden Slipper, Professor. So, when Coolmore have a horse trained by Waller, a 2-year-old being set for the Golden Slipper, it's, and this horse being a colt would have extreme value as a sire prospect. So Coolmore aren't going to risk it in any way, shape or form. It's by Wooden Bassett out of one of their mares, Fiore Fiesta. Now, it's had one start for one win. It's won at Rose Hill. They've raced it over the same distance of tomorrow's race, which is quickly having a look, over 1,100. It won that race there by just under 4 lengths, Professor, in its first start, and won it quite easily. James McDonald's not riding in Sydney or Melbourne tomorrow, so Karen McAvoy hops on after some indifferent riding last week, where he was pretty heavily criticised. But look, we're looking for what we think is a bit of a certainty, and we think race 6, number 3, Wodaton, is that tomorrow in Sydney.
All right, Gelding, we'll parlay that into the NBA. We've been having some reasonable success in the NBA this season. Oklahoma City Thunder to beat the Utah Jazz. Oklahoma City are first in the West. They've won 44 out of their 54 matches, Gelding, so that's a pretty good strike rate. They average 117 points for, and they average 104 against. That's the best in the NBA. They've got the best defensive setup in the NBA, Gelding, so that's something to take note of. Utah Jazz having a season to forget. They're 14th in the West. They've only won 13 games for the season, so a very poor return. They only score 112 and have 119 scored against them, Gelding. So I suppose with those figures, you'd understand why they've only won 10 times.
Yeah. Those figures speak for themselves, don't they?
They do. And the line, Gelding, the bookies don't like them. 15.5. It's the biggest line in any NBA match this weekend. So looks like the bookies and I think that Oklahoma City Thunder will take care of Utah Jazz, and we'll parlay that into the Premier League, Gelding. I know you love that, love hearing those two words, Premier League. We did get up with Liverpool last week at home. Arsenal are playing at home, Gelding. They're second on the ladder, and they're playing West Ham United, so it's a London derby. Arsenal have won 15 matches. They're second on the ladder. They've got a plus 29 goal difference. They must win to stay in touch with Liverpool. United 16th. They're close to the relegation zone, Gelding. They've only won 7 matches. They've got a minus 18 goal difference. The bookies think West Ham United aren't a good thing. They're $12 in a 2-horse race, Gelding.
Wow. That speaks for itself, doesn't it?
I think it does, Gelding. So tomorrow's Professor's Parlay is Rose Hill, race 6, horse 3, Wodaton, into Oklahoma City Thunder to beat the Utah Jazz, into Arsenal to beat West Ham United. Now, Gelding...
Well, hopefully that will appease Hogs and he can continue his successful run rate. Professor, I didn't know whether you told me. He advised me that a couple of times he hasn't been able to get on with the Professor's Parlay, but when he does get on, he's running at 71%.
Oh.
Okay.
He should be very happy with that. No wonder he wants to get on, Gelding.
Exactly, Professor.
All right, Gelding. Well, that's all from you and I for this round of That's Racing. So until next Saturday and That's Racing, it's good luck.
And good punting.